Hello, good afternoon. For the Institute for Economics and Peace IEP Ambassador Program, July 22, I am Heidi Gretchen G. Panganiban. Okay, so maybe you are going to ask, what is IEP? The Institute for Economics and Peace is an independent, not-for-profit think tank dedicated to building a greater understanding of the key drivers of peace, as well as identifying the economic benefits that increased peacefulness can deliver. The Institute for Economics and Peace, IEP, it was founded in 2007 by Australian IT entrepreneur and philanthropist Steve Kelelia. Since then, the institute has already grown in size and influence. The IEP is the world's leading think tank dedicated to developing metrics to analyze peace and quantify its economic value. We do this by developing global and national indexes, calculating the economic cost of violence, analyzing counter risks, and understanding positive peace. The IEP is best known for its annual publications, the Global Peace Index, the Global Terrorism Index, and the Positive Peace Report. Founded in 2008, IEP has developed into a global operation. Its research regularly features in leading international media publications, including The Guardian, The Economist, Huffington Post, Washington Post, CNN, and others. Now, you might ask, what is the mission of IEP? The mission of IEP is to create a paradigm shift in the way the world thinks about peace. We use data-driven research to show that peace is a positive, tangible, and achievable measure of human well-being and development. As you can see, our international offices, as I said earlier, we have grown in size and influence. In addition to the Sydney headquarters, we now operate in international offices in New York, Brussels, The Hague, Mexico, and Harare. Additionally, IEP content achieves over 20 billion media impressions across 150 countries each year and more than 1 billion social media impressions across Facebook and Twitter. Now, in the age of information, the value of sound, independent, evidence-based research is ever increasing. IEP's data-driven research provides policymakers, researchers in the media, and the interested public with a reliable insight and analysis. So what is positive peace? Positive peace is the attitudes, institutions, and structures that create and sustain peaceful societies. So, what is negative peace? Negative peace is the absence of violence or fear of violence. The positive index, now on its eighth year, ranks 163 countries using 24 indicators weighed on a 1 to 5 scale, developed, of course, by IEP, and it is empirically derived, uses over 25,000 data series indices and surveys. Through research of more than 25,000 data covering 10 years, the Institute for Economics and Peace has identified concrete strategies by which countries can invest in positive peace, thereby improving resilience, mitigating the risk of violence, and reducing the economic toll of conflict. Through the delivery of workshops, project design interventions, positive peace can guide governments, businesses, and communities on investments in the 8 pillars of positive peace. Of course, in strengthening the attitudes, the institutions, and social structures that create better development outcomes. The positive peace framework can be applied in many settings and can provide a framework to understand and then address the multiple and complex challenges the world faces. Not only is the framework applicable at the macro level for governments, it is also applicable and is used for the community level. Positive peace projects can be tailored to a variety of different stakeholders, including professionals working in development, peace building, policing, military, health, education, and government policy. The framework is non political, culturally sensitive, and impartial, and provides a neutral baseline from which recipients can create their own practical approaches to development. Now, in defining and measuring peace, the perfect state would have no police, no jails, or crime. Actual peace, crime, suppression, military, armed conflict versus GPI, positive peace. These are derived through statistical analysis of data sets, indices, and attitudes with the GPI in the positive peace index. Now, this positive peace, this creates the optimum environment for human potential to flourish. As what I've mentioned earlier, we have these 8 pillars. They are interrelated and interconnected with one another. Now, for a well-functioning government, it should deliver high-quality public and civil services. It engenders trust and participation, demonstrates political stability, and upholds the rule of law. In sound business environment, the strength of economic conditions, as well as the formal institutions that support the operation of the private sector. Acceptance of the rights of others. These are peaceful nations enforce formal laws that guarantee basic human rights and freedom, and the informal social and cultural norms that create the behaviors of citizens. And of course, we need the free flow of information, which is the free and independent media disseminates information in a way that leads to greater knowledge and helps individuals, businesses, civil society to make better decisions. This leads to better outcomes and more rational response in times of crisis. Now, in measuring positive peace, each pillar is measured by a combination of 3 quantitative indicators. In a well-functioning government, the indicator is the political democracy indices, which describe does the electoral process and civil liberties support secular democracy. Government effectiveness estimate how good are the quality of public services. And the rule of law, how much confidence do we have in the courts and the police. These high levels of positive peace lead to societal resilience, better environmental outcomes, high measures of well-being, high per capita income, and better performance on development goals. Now, in the Global Peace Index 2021, now on its 15th year, ranks 163 countries, 99.7 of world's population covered, using 23 indicators weighed on a 1 to 5 scale, developed again by IEP. This is guided and first overseen by a panel of international experts. The 15th edition of this annual Global Peace Index report, the world's leading measure of global peacefulness, reveals that the average level of global peacefulness deteriorated for the ninth time in 12 years in 2020. Overall, 87 countries improved in peacefulness, while 73 deteriorated. This was the second smallest in the history of the index, but the report also reveals that improvements to peace are more gradual than declines. As much of the world looks towards the COVID-19 recovery, increased civil unrest and political instability will be important to navigate. Global peace indicators, measures of ongoing domestic and international conflict, including intensity of organized internal conflicts, relations with neighboring countries, and number of deaths from conflict. Measures of societal safety and security, including number of refugees, IDPs, impact of terrorism, homicide, and incarceration rates, and measures of militarization, including military expenditure, number of armed service personnel, ease of access to small weapons. Now, what are the key findings of the 2021 Global Peace Index? The average level of global country peacefulness has deteriorated by 7%. Again, as indicated earlier, this is the ninth deterioration in the last 13 years. 87 countries became peaceful, 73 deteriorated. So what were the improvements driven by these changes? First, there is an ongoing conflict, there is an internal conflict, and terrorism impact. While the deterioration is primarily driven by changes in militarization, military expenditures, safety, and security. As you can see on the screen, these are the 10 most peaceful countries in the world. Number 1, we have Iceland. Number 10 is Canada. We also have 10 least peaceful countries in the world. 163 goes to Afghanistan. 154 goes to Russia. As we can see right now, it's very sad what's happening in the world between Russia and the neighboring countries. 5 most improved countries, we have Ukraine, ranked 142, rose 5 places. In Poland, ranked 24, rose 9 places. North Macedonia, ranked 40, rose 11 places. Iraq, ranked 159, rose to 2 places. Vietnam, ranked 50, rose 19 places. We also have the 5 most deteriorated countries. As you can see, Zambia, ranked 71, it fell to 24 places. Burkina Faso, ranked 134, it even fell to 13 places. Regional GPI results in 2021, you can see the overall score. It's almost 2.5, 2.4 for Middle East and North Africa. Now, aside from this peace that we're talking about, it also impacts the economic value of peace. The economic impact of violence of 2020 goes to $14.96 trillion, which is equivalent to 11.6 of the total world GDP, or $19,402 per person. If the world decreased violence by 10%, we could be directed to other economic activities in the amount of $1.496 trillion. 10% is equivalent to the size of Switzerland, Denmark, and Ireland's economies. Breakdown of the economic violence of impact of violence. You know, this military expenditures accounts for over 40% of the total economic impact of violence. As you can see in the pie, military expenditures compose of 42.9%, while the internal security expenditures is 31.3%. So this is how the impact of violence that we are experiencing to our economy. Now, the peace and perceptions of risk. The global perceptions of safety and risk, there are 5 countries with the largest experience of violence are in sub-Saharan Africa. 50% are risk to safety. 50% of people in Afghanistan, Brazil, South Africa, Mexico, and the Dominican Republic report violence as the greatest risk to safety in their daily lives. About 60% fear of violent crime. 60% of people globally, they are very worried about sustaining serious harm from violent crime. About 75% are feeling safe. 75% of people feel as safe or more safe than 5 years ago. And of course, 5% more women fear violence than men globally. Proportion of people who cite crime, violence, or terrorism as their greatest threat to safety, as you can see in the map. Now, aside from this economic threat, we also have ecological threat report for 2021. Now on its second year, ranks 175 countries and independent states, 99.9% of the world's population covered using the 5 indicators in a 1 to 5 scale developed by IEP combines ecological threats with the Global Peace Index and the Positive Peace Index. These ecological threat indicators measures the resource scarcity like rapid population growth, water risk, food risk. It also measures of natural disasters and temperature rise, including the temperature anomalies, weighted frequency natural disasters, and measures of ecological threat, the EETR score, and the catastrophic score. Now, what are these key findings of the 2021 Ecological Threat Report measuring the impact of ecological threats? The ecological damage and conflict work as a vicious cycle. Ecological damage is a major driver of conflict. Conflict and resource degradation are strongly connected. In fact, 11 of the 15 countries with the worst ETR scores are in conflict. Key drivers of future conflict are deteriorating malnutrition, food insecurity, and population growth in the most distressed countries are all rising. 28 of the 30 countries with worst ETR score are in the bottom half of the GPI. Sub-Saharan Africa has the most countries at risk. The ETR and societal resistance, the 30 countries with the lowest resistance and highest ETR score, are home to 1.26 billion people. 18 of the 20 countries with the highest ETR score are among the world's least peaceful countries. Positive peace is used to measure resilience. No country with high positive peace has very poor ETR scores, statistically associated with better food security, water security, population growth, and the ability to manage natural resources. As positive peace improves the management of food, water, and population, it also improves creating resilience. In the 2021 highlights on hotspots, three clusters of ecological hotspots are specifically vulnerable. The Sahel Horn Belt of Africa, from Mauritania to Somalia, the Southern African Belt from Angola to Madagascar, the Middle East and Central Asian Belt from Syria to Pakistan. Now, the national hotspots combining the catastrophic threats and low levels of resilience. 10 countries, as you can see, these are the highest ETR score. We have number 178, Afghanistan. We also have 10 countries with the lowest ETR score. Again, we have number 1, Iceland. Number 10 is Hong Kong. For the Global Terrorism Index. What is the Global Terrorism Index? Now in its ninth year, ranks 163 countries in 99.7% of the world's population covered, used as an indicator in the Global Peace Index, developed again by IEP, the data source from the Dragonfly's Terrorism Track database. The GTI 2022 results for the Global Terrorism measuring the impact of terrorism. For our highlights for the year 2022, deaths from terrorism down by 1.2%, last 4 years similar. Number of attacks by 17% to 5,226, less little than 2020. 86 countries improved compared to 19 that deteriorated. Terrorism is becoming more concentrated into conflict zones. 97% occurs in conflict zones, attacks 6 times deadlier than elsewhere. Sahel now epicenter of terrorism, deaths up to 10 times since 2007. Highlights for the 2022 continuation, we have death decreased by 10% in sub-Saharan Africa due to success against Boko Haram. Deaths in MENA continue to decline down 14% to 1,139. Islamic State and affiliates most deadly group, deaths 2,066 in 20 countries. Jama'a at Nasar al-Islam wal Muslimin Jaiminin is the fastest growing group, 352 deaths, an increase of 69%. Islamic State West Africa, ISWA, the most lethal, 23 attacks with 15 deaths average per attack in Niger. Attacks in the West fallen substantially for last 4 years. 59 attacks, 10 deaths in 2021, down 70%. Politically motivated terrorism overtakes religious terrorism, 5 times higher in the last 5 years. Myanmar had the largest increase in terrorism, where deaths increased from 24 to 521. Mozambique recorded the largest drop, 90 deaths down 82%. Now, these are the countries most impacted by terrorism 2022. Again, Afghanistan recorded the highest impact of terrorism for the 3rd consecutive year. Key findings for 2022, deaths in the 5 most impacted countries, this already increased by 21%. Death fall 19% for all other countries. Terrorism is becoming more concentrated. 10 countries accounted for 86% of all deaths from terrorism in 2021. As you can see, Afghanistan is on 20%. Now, what are the trends in terrorism? The deaths from terrorism, as you can see, from the year 2007 to 2021, have decreased 33% since peaking in 2015. Islamic State was the deadliest known terrorist group for the fourth consecutive year. Trend in the IS related terrorism death 2007-2021. Since 2007, the IS and affiliated groups have caused over 19,000 terrorism deaths. Though the terrorism in the Sahel, as you can see, the incidents and deaths in the Sahel, this have significantly increased since 2007. Levels of terrorism is strongly associated with food and water scarcity. Now, how about the terrorism in the West? Fatalities by ideology by 2007 to 2021, religious attacks have caused the most fatalities, followed by the far right. Terrorism in the West has overtaken religious terrorism. Political attacks 5 times higher. Only 3 Islamic attacks in Europe in 2021, which resulted to 2 deaths. Only 7 attacks in the US, none tied to a group. Similarities between the far left and the far right terrorists both target government 17% of attacks. Similar motivations alienated from system. Now, with the rankings and changes, we have the key findings in the last 10 years. Positive peace improved 2.4% globally in the past decade. About 126 countries became more peaceful, while 37 deteriorated. Now, what were the driven forces for improvement? We have the free flow of information, the good relations with neighbors, the equitable distribution of resources, while the deteriorations were driven by changes in the attitudes domain, low levels of corruption pillar. The key findings in the 10 years in Syria, Libya had the largest deterioration. North America was the only region to deteriorate. Uzbekistan and Georgia had the largest improvements. Asia Pacific had the largest regional improvement. Europe remains the most peaceful region but deteriorated on 4 pillars. Positive Peace Index is the top 10 nations and rank changes over the last decade. We have ranked number 1, Sweden. Positive Peace Index, these are also the bottom 10 nations. Number 63 is Somalia. Now, we have what we call a system. So what is a system? A system is a set of parts that interact within a context to achieve a desired purpose. Now, in positive peace plus systems thinking, we equate it to societal change. What is systems thinking? Positive peace operates systematically. System thinking acknowledges the world is complex, the cause and effect versus unclear cause and effect, linear change versus nonlinear change, and the encoded norms and the archetypes purpose. What are the 2 parts of the system? Elements mutually interact, making causality difficult to determine. We have a well-functioning government and the low levels of corruption. Effects are not clearly defined, interacting making it difficult to separate the cause and effect. A well-functioning government leads to low levels of corruption and the causality which shapes the future. Non-linearities causes can be disproportionate to their effects, while the feedback loops compounded or can intensify over time. Tipping points, society will only tolerate so much corruption. Encoded norms define what is accepted and expected within a society. The changes in encoded norms in response of a shock like COVID. Most countries did not have mask wearing policy in 2020. We have no policy, then it was recommended in some public spaces, in all public places, and sometimes outside the home. Now, change in encoded norms in response to a shock in 2021. Again, there was no policy, and then it was recommended, and so on and so forth. The path dependency is the current norms are shaped by the past. History really matters. There is what we call systems within a system. A system can be a part of a larger system, like a state can be part of a country, and a country be part of the world. System summary are indeed complex. Pillars of positive peace are part systems of a larger systems. Interaction, unclear cause and effect, nonlinear changes, feedback loops, and tipping points. Path dependence, path encoded forms. So for our project, this is what we call the positive peace pillar mapping of road peace in Zamboanga City. As you can see here in the picture, I am in the center. We had a consultation with several groups, NGOs, civic organizations, and other government organizations in order to create a road peace in Zamboanga City. Currently, we do not have any ordinance for the road safety, especially for the children traversing from their home to their school. This is the workshop that was conducted, two-day training workshop, where I was one of the speakers there. Okay. We have 30 participants during this forum, and we were able to come up with a good plan for the road safety plan of the Zamboanga City. Because as you can see, Zamboanga City is a city in the Zamboanga Peninsula region of the Philippines. We are also known as the Asia's Latin City of Flowers, and we have a population of about 944,864. The city of Zamboanga is politically subdivided. We have at least 98 barangays. We are compiled with religions such as 70% to 73% Roman Catholic, 27% belongs to Islam and non-Catholic religions. Besides using the Chabacano as the main dialect, there are many other dialects used aside like Tagalog, Bisaya, or Tausug. The city of Zamboanga can also be reached through land, sea, and air. That's why Zamboanga City can indeed be a future haven of economic progress. Now, you might ask, these road accidents, these are unfortunate events that create ecological and imbalance and social disaster. More than a collision, they are a situation that leaves behind distress, sorrow, and sufferings. Therefore, identification of the causes of road accidents become highly essential for adopting necessary preventive measures against this critical event. The damage created by road accidents is so large extent unrepairable and therefore needs attention to eradicate this continuously increasing trend of awful epidemic. So to become an epicenter, if we don't have any ordinances for the road safety or the road peace in Zamboanga City, as you can see as the data provided by the Zamboanga City Police Officer, we have the number of homicide, physical injury, and damage to property from 2019 up to 2022 later on. For the homicide, we have around 49 homicide in the year 2019. Physical injuries, 1,666. Damage to property is 4,167. The road crash data for 2020 shows homicide resulted in 35, physical injury resulted in 758, damage to property is around 2,162, while in the data, road crash in 2021 shows homicide of 35, physical injury of 600, and damage to property on 1,464. While the road crash in the period January to April 2022, we have homicide of 10, physical injuries of 186, and the damage to property around 411. Now, with this crash, we can really see that it's still not addressed properly. There are some minors, as you can see, in the year 2022, at the age of 20, there are already the total minor involved is about 230 in the range of 52% for minor, 19 and below. In transport vehicles and traffic situation in Zamboanga Central Business District, as you can see, most of the transportation used here, we have the pedicab, we have the Piaggio, the jeepneys, the tricycles, and just limited cars and other motorcycles. Now, we have assessed at least 25 pilot schools in Zamboanga City. As you can see, those are the 25 pilot schools in Zamboanga City, which were assessed to conduct these road safety model schools. Now, if we have 8 pillars for our Peace Academy, for our road safety, we also adopted the 5 pillars, which can be done in conjunctive with these 8 pillars of the IEP, which is very timely and relevant to our demand for a road safety or road peace here in Zamboanga City, presently, because there is none, if ever there will be a condition of a collision, accidents that happen between some parties, because of the slow judicial system we have here, they resulted sometimes to more violence. And we cannot afford to create more violence in Zamboanga City if we to become a haven for economic progress here. As you can see, for the leadership on road safety, we need first the road safety management, the safer roads and mobility for safer vehicles, and the safer road users and the post-crash response. Now, in the positive peace pillar mapping of road peace in Zamboanga City, for the sound business environment, of course, we need to install more road signs, make use of helmet mandatory, the use of the child restraints, the giving of speedometer, which there is presently none, I believe, here in Zamboanga City, to monitor the movement of speed limit of moving vehicles. In effect, this can also help out our local businessmen in providing the needs of the government and also the general public. Now, in the equitable distribution of resources, the city sent police force, particularly the traffic management division, to each part of the 25 pilot schools in different barangays to monitor that the drivers would comply with the speed limit. The monitoring is done twice a month. Of course, this is also in conjunction with the barangay officials and the other school administrators. For high levels of human capital, even the parents now of these children, the teachers, these communities began to participate in the activity of road safety by installing signs in the road and school premises as campaign awareness. And in effect, this has become well improved in the community. For the low levels of corruption, since city agencies were told to coordinate their activities directly to schools concerned, the pockets of corruption were dealt with. Now, for well-functioning government, Mayor John Dalipid issued an executive order for the creation of the technical working group. We revised the technical working group to address the road peace in Zamboanga City by including more civic organization, more government agencies in order to address the increasing problem, not only for the road safety, but for the creation of a proper road for the city to use in order to eliminate more of this accident that is happening here in our city. In the free flow of information, also we need to have consultations listed in the concerns for all the members of the 25 pilot schools, the community, the civic organizations, and government organizations. For the city government of Zamboanga, which I am working, we also have good relations with neighbors in coordinations with other agencies like the Human Development Empowerment Services, HDES, Imagine, Rotary, UNICEF, and the government and other government agencies here and the 25 Bible schools. They had given us a reasonable basis for the road safety ordinance. This has really been a functional, positive peace pillar, and we respect the rights of others, the children, the school administrators, the motorists, and even the concerned agencies that work hand in hand to address the road safety issues here. So we are very, very thankful to the IAP for providing us with these 8 pillars, which have guided us in creating a safer road safety mechanisms and a road peace for Zamboanga City. Without this IAP, we do not know how to incorporate this. But with your lecture, we are very happy that this has been made possible. So God bless. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you. Bye-bye.